drier, and this happens over days and then over the springtime. And it might take, a month for the water to make its way down through the soil profile, but as that happens, you also get evaporation, and then it gets warmer, and the water evaporates. So what happens with what's left over in the water when something evaporates? It's just like in your teapot. When you evaporate all the water of the teapot, you look at the bottom and there's this little crust. Well, that's the salt that's in the water. Well, the same thing happens with the soils, is that you will wash the salts out of the top portion of the soil column, and a lot of it goes down deeper. Sometimes it goes down about 3 feet, and at that point in time, there's enough time evaporation that occurs that it evaporates and leaves the salt below at that elevation. So in the soil profile, you'll find quite commonly in arid environments a layer of very salty material that cements itself together and just stays right there. So a lot of it's just flushed out. So you'll have different chemistry at the top versus different chemistry down at the bottom. And there's all sorts of other things that happen with the soil, because the soils aren't constant. You'll have new materials coming on top of the soils. You'll have leaf and other plant material falling on top of it. So it's kind of a dynamic situation. And depending on which influence is having more impact, you might have a forest fire comes through and burns up all the trees, and there's not that much more live material coming back, but it's left a whole bunch of dead, burned material that's stuck there at that layer, and it'll affect that. And then sometimes you have soils that'll just strip off the tops of the soils. It'll just wash downhill, and then you're stuck with that salty layer up there at the top. So there's all sorts of different things that are going on. And part of it overlaps into the area of geology. Is that if you're a geologist, you try to follow what's happening with the geology in the soils, because that's useful in finding out things about the dates of the soils. They'll use that information as far as the date of a soil at the date. For example, an earthquake. When did the earthquake happen last? Well, you need to figure out how old the soil is. And what happens in the soil can kind of tell you the age and date of that soil and when it was displaced. So you might say, well, there was an earthquake that happened there 1,000 years ago, because the soil looks like it's about 1,000 years old. There's certain things that they can do along that lines.
Cool.